Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. I never expected to be introduced to my own girlfriend's entire company as the roommate, but there I was, standing in the signature lounge on the 95th floor of the John Hancock Center, watching her gesture casually toward me like I was furniture she'd picked up at IKEA. The Chicago skyline glittered behind floor-to-ceiling windows, the December cold pressing against the glass while inside. Her company's holiday party buzzed with the kind of forced cheerfulness that comes with open bars and year-end bonuses. I'd arrived 15 minutes earlier, taking the ear-popping elevator ride alone because she'd gone straight from the office. 3.5 years together, 2 of them living in our Lincoln Park apartment, and I was still showing up to her work events like an afterthought. I should have seen it coming. I'd made an effort tonight. Dark gray suit, the one she'd once said made me look sharp. I'd even stopped at Benny's for a decent bottle of wine for her boss, Patricia, whose name I'd heard 1,000 times, but whose face I'd never seen. My girlfriend had kept her work life and personal life in separate boxes, and I'd convinced myself it was just her being professional, focused, career-driven. I spotted her across the room, laughing with a group near the windows. She looked good. She always did. Hair pulled back, black dress, the confident posture of someone who belonged exactly where she was. I made my way over, wine bottle in hand, ready to finally meet the people she spent 60 hours a week with. She didn't see me approach. Or maybe she did and chose not to acknowledge it. I'll never know. "Oh," she said when I was already standing there, her tone flat, almost annoyed at the interruption. "This is my roommate." The words hit me like I'd walked into a glass door. My roommate. Not my boyfriend. Not my partner. Not even my friend. My roommate. Like I was some random person from Craigslist who happened to split utilities with her. There was a pause. The kind where everyone in the group registers that something is slightly off, but nobody knows quite what to do about it. I stood there, bottle of wine suddenly feeling ridiculous in my hand, trying to process what had just happened. A guy to her left, tall, absurdly handsome in that way that makes you immediately dislike someone, broke the silence with a laugh. "Nice setup. Must be cheap rent in Lincoln Park, huh?" The group chuckled. She smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an apologetic smile. Just a regular smile, like this was all perfectly normal. Something inside me snapped. I didn't plan what came next. The words just came out, clear and final. "Free actually. Moving out tomorrow." The laughter died instantly. Her smile froze, then crumbled. The color drained from her face before rushing back in a deep red flush. The handsome guy's eyebrows shot up. An older woman, I assumed, was Patricia, looked between us with the sharp awareness of someone who'd just stumbled into drama. "Oh," Patricia said carefully. "Relationship trouble?" I looked directly at my girlfriend. Her eyes were wide, panicked, silently begging me not to do whatever I was about to do. 3.5 years of memories flickered through my mind in a second. All the times I'd made excuses for her. All the times I'd told myself things were fine when they clearly weren't. "What relationship?" I said. I set the wine bottle down on the nearest high-top table, the glass making a definitive thunk against the wood. "Enjoy your evening. Patricia, nice to finally meet you." I turned and walked toward the elevators. Behind me, I heard her voice, tight with barely controlled panic. "Wait, I didn't wait." I pressed the elevator button and stared at the brushed steel doors, willing them to open, willing myself not to turn around. The doors slid open. I stepped inside. She caught up just as they started to close, shoving her hand between them. They bounced back open and she stepped in, her face a mixture of fury and something that might have been fear. "What the hell was that?" she hissed as the doors closed, sealing us in the small space. "What are you doing?" I pressed the button for the ground floor. 95 floors to descend. I watched the numbers tick down. "You're embarrassing me." Her voice was rising now, echoing in the enclosed space. "Do you have any idea what you just did? That was my boss. That was my entire team." I turned to look at her. Really look at her. When had I stopped being her boyfriend? When had I become just someone who helped pay rent? "I'm the roommate, remember?" I said quietly. "I don't think roommates are supposed to make scenes at work parties." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. The elevator continued its descent. 87th floor, 79th, 63rd. I pulled out my phone and opened a browser. Searched short-term rentals Wicker Park, Chicago. 3 options came up immediately. One looked promising, available for immediate move-in. I bookmarked it. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice smaller now. "Finding a place to stay tonight." "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." "Over what?" "Over me not wanting to make Connor uncomfortable?" I looked at her. "You chose his comfort over acknowledging my existence." That's exactly what you did. And you know what the really sad part is? I bet you've been calling me your roommate for months. I bet Connor has no idea you're even in a relationship." Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. "How long?" I asked. "What? How long have you been telling people we're just roommates?" She looked down. It was easier." "Easier than what?" "Saying boyfriend? That's one word. 2 syllables." "You don't understand the politics at my office. I understand that you were ashamed of me." "I wasn't ashamed." "Then what was it?" "Because from where I'm standing, you hid me for months so you could keep your options open with some guy who makes jokes about rent. 42nd floor, 28th, 15th. Over one comment? You're going to blow up 3 years over one stupid comment?" I looked at her again. "Is that what you think this is about?" The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened onto the marble lobby, cold air rushing in from the revolving doors that led to Michigan Avenue. I stepped out. She followed, grabbing my arm. "Please, can we just talk about this? You called me your roommate in front of your entire company. What's there to talk about?" I panicked. I didn't know what to say. That actually made me stop. I turned to face her fully. "You didn't know what to say? I'm your boyfriend. You say this is my boyfriend. It's not complicated." She looked away. He's been flirting with me." I didn't want to make things weird. "Connor, the handsome guy. Of course. So instead you made me nothing." "That's not." She stopped, seemed to realize there was no good way to finish that sentence. "How would you feel," I asked slowly, "if I took you to meet my team and introduced you as just someone I live with? Would you laugh it off?" "That's different." "How is it different?" "It just is." "No, explain it to me. How is it different?" I wasn't yelling. My voice was perfectly calm. That seemed to unsettle her more than anger would have. "Because from where I'm standing, what you did tonight told me exactly where I rank in your life. Below your job, below your image, below some guy who flirts with you at the coffee machine." "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" "Because I'm pretty sure I just heard you tell your boss there was no relationship to worry about. So I'm agreeing with you. Can we please just go home and talk about this like adults?" I thought about that. About going back to our apartment, having the same circular conversation we always had when something was wrong, ending with me accepting her half apology and nothing changing. I thought about lying in bed tonight, staring at the ceiling, wondering when I'd become so disposable to her. "No," I said. "I don't think we can." I walked out into the December cold, leaving her standing in the lobby, and I didn't look back. The Hampton Inn in Wicker Park was nothing special, but it was available, and it wasn't the apartment I shared with someone who introduced me as her roommate. I checked in, rode the elevator to the 3rd floor, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, trying to figure out what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again immediately. I turned it face down on the nightstand. I should have felt something. Anger, maybe. Sadness. Regret. But all I felt was a strange, hollow clarity. Like I'd been walking through fog for months, and someone had finally turned on a fan. When had we stopped being a couple? I tried to pinpoint the exact moment, but there wasn't one. It had been gradual, so slow I hadn't noticed it happening. The way she started saying "I" instead of "we" when talking about future plans. The way our date nights had dwindled from weekly to monthly to "we should really do something soon." The way we'd stopped being intimate, stopped really talking, stopped being anything more than 2 people who split a lease and occasionally ate dinner in the same room. For months. That's how long it had been since we'd been physically intimate. For months since we'd done anything that qualified as a date. For months of living parallel lives under the same roof, and I'd just accepted it. Told myself she was stressed with work. Told myself things would get better. Told myself this was just what long-term relationships looked like. But relationships don't look like being introduced as a roommate. Relationships don't look like being kept secret from coworkers for 3.5 years. Relationships don't look like whatever this had become. My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I picked it up and scrolled through her messages. "This is ridiculous. Answer your phone." Fine, be childish. I set the phone back down and lay back on the hotel bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling. Tomorrow was Friday. I had vacation days saved up. I could take the day, go to the apartment while she was at work, pack my things. I could be out before she got home. Clean break. No drawn-out conversations, no negotiations, no false promises to work on things. The decision should have felt bigger, more momentous. Instead, it felt like the most obvious thing in the world. I fell asleep still wearing my suit, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night. I woke up at 7 to 17 missed calls and a dozen more messages. I ignored all of them, showered, and called my boss to request a personal day. Then I drove to the apartment in Lincoln Park, the morning traffic on the Kennedy giving me time to mentally catalog what I needed to take. Not much, as it turned out. Most of the furniture was hers, bought before I moved in. The plates, the artwork, the expensive coffee maker she'd insisted we needed, all hers. I'd been living in her space, not our space. I'd just been too blind to see it. I parked on the street and took the stairs to our third-floor unit. The key felt strange in my hand, like it already belonged to someone else's life. Inside, everything looked exactly as we'd left it yesterday morning. Her coffee mug still in the sink. My jacket still on the coat rack. A frozen moment before everything changed. I worked methodically, clothes from the closet, careful not to take anything that could be considered ours. Toiletries from the bathroom. Laptop, tablet, the few books I'd brought with me 2 years ago. My grandmother's watch from the nightstand. Everything fit into 2 suitcases and 3 boxes. 3.5 years of my life, and it all fit in my Civic. I saved the bedroom for last. There was a photo on her nightstand, the 2 of us at her friend's wedding last summer. We looked happy. Maybe we had been, in that moment. Or maybe I'd been happy, and she'd been good at faking it. I left the photo face down, but didn't throw it away. That felt too vindictive, and this wasn't about revenge. This was about recognizing what had already died. The last thing I did was leave my key on the kitchen counter. I locked the door from the inside, pulled it shut behind me, and listened to the click of the deadbolt. Final. I loaded everything into my car and drove away from Lincoln Park. Away from the apartment with the street parking nightmare and the neighbors who played music too loud on weekends. Away from the life I'd been trying to convince myself was enough. The Wicker Park rental was smaller than our place, just a 1-bedroom above a vintage shop, but it was available immediately, and I could afford it without stretching. The landlord met me there at noon, a retired teacher who seemed pleased to have a tenant with good credit and a steady job in software engineering. I signed the lease, paid first and last month's rent, and got the keys on the spot. By 3 o'clock, I was unloading boxes into my new place. My place, not ours. Mine. The apartment was empty except for a few pieces of furniture the previous tenant had left behind, a couch and a mattress. Good enough for now. I'd buy what I needed over time. Build something that was actually mine. My phone buzzed. I'd been ignoring it all day, but curiosity finally got the better of me. 23 missed calls. I scrolled through the messages, watching her emotional progression in real time. Friday morning. Are you serious right now? Friday afternoon. We need to talk about the lease. Friday evening. I talked to the landlord. We need to figure this out. Hello? Saturday morning. Can we at least talk like adults? Saturday evening. Connor asked about you. I didn't know what to say. I feel like you're making this a bigger deal than it is. I almost laughed at that last one. I'd publicly announced I was moving out at her work party, actually moved out the next day, and she thought I was making it a bigger deal than it was. The cognitive dissonance was impressive. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? She'd made it clear how she saw me. I was just accepting her assessment. Sunday passed quietly. I set up my new place, went for a run along the 606 trail, grabbed dinner at a taco place on Division Street. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody expected anything from me. The freedom of it was intoxicating. Monday, a new message. The rent is due next week. I can't afford this place alone. There it was. Not I miss you. Not I'm sorry. Just the practical concern. The realization that losing her roommate meant losing half the rent check. I contacted the landlord myself that afternoon, explained the situation, and offered to pay my portion of the lease break fee. He was understanding, said these things happen, and that we could settle it within the week. I transferred the money the next day. Done. Tuesday evening. Look, I know I screwed up. Can we meet? Followed by a longer message. I've been thinking about what you said. I didn't realize I was making you feel that way. I never meant to hurt you. Can we at least talk face to face? I think we owe each other that much. Still not an apology. Just an acknowledgement that I had feelings about what she'd done. Not that what she'd done was actually wrong. I settled into my new routine. Work, gym, apartment. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the relationship. The ones who'd slowly stopped inviting me out because I always had to check with her first. I went to a Bulls game with my college roommate. Had drinks after work with my team. Existed as a complete person, not as half of a couple that had stopped being a couple long before I'd realized it. 2 weeks after the party, my friend Liam texted, "Heard what happened. You good?" Liam knew her through mutual friends. I'd been wondering when word would reach our wider circle. "Yeah," I typed back. "Better than I've been in a while, actually. She's been telling people you overreacted. Says she's confused why you're ghosting her." Of course she was. In her version of events, she was the confused party. The one who didn't understand why I'd blown everything up over nothing. "What do you think?" I asked. "Honestly, I never saw her treat you like a priority. You were always adjusting your schedule for her, showing up to things alone because she was busy. I figured you were okay with it, but..." He paused. "I'm glad you're out, man. You deserve better than that." It shouldn't have mattered, getting external validation. But it did. It helped to know I wasn't crazy, that other people had seen what I'd been too close to see. Thursday evening, another message from her. "I'm looking at cheaper apartments. Patricia asked me if everything was okay. This is affecting my work. Please just respond." Affecting her work. That's what mattered to her. Not the relationship, not what she'd lost, but how this looked to her boss. How it affected her career. Friday. "I don't want things to end like this. 3 years should mean something." That one almost got me. 3 years did mean something. They meant I'd spent 3 years with someone who'd never fully let me in. Someone who'd kept me at arm's length while maintaining the appearance of a relationship. Someone who'd been comfortable with what we had because it asked nothing of her. But I didn't respond. Not yet. I wanted to see how far this would go. How long it would take for her to realize that maybe, just maybe, she'd actually lost something worth keeping. The weekend passed. No messages. I wondered if she'd given up, moved on, accepted that this was really over. Then Sunday morning. "Please. I just need to understand. Can we meet? Just to talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it forever, to let the silence be my final answer. But another part of me, the part that had invested 3.5 years in this relationship, wanted closure. Wanted her to hear, directly from me, why I was done. I typed out a response. Sunday, 2 p.m. Intelligentsia, Millennium Park location. Her reply came within seconds. "Thank you. I'll be there." I didn't respond to her follow-up messages asking if I was doing okay, if I needed anything, if we could maybe grab dinner after. One meeting. That's what I'd agreed to. Nothing more. The week crawled by. I worked, went to the gym, organized my new apartment. Bought a proper bed frame and a desk. Hung up the few pieces of art I'd brought with me. Made the space feel like home. Every night, I fell asleep without the low-grade anxiety that had become so normal I'd stopped noticing it. No wondering if I'd done something wrong. No walking on eggshells. Just peace. Sunday arrived cold and gray, typical December in Chicago. I walked to Intelligentsia, the wind off the lake cutting through my jacket. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table near the window, hands wrapped around a coffee cup. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual polished style. She looked up when I walked in, and something in her expression made me pause. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. I couldn't tell anymore. I ordered a coffee and sat down across from her. She started to reach across the table, like she might take my hand, but I pulled back. Her hand retreated. "Thank you for meeting me," she said quietly. I nodded. "Waited. I've missed you," she said. "I know I screwed up. I know what I said was wrong. But these past 2 weeks have been hell, and I want to fix this." I took a sip of my coffee. Still too hot, but I needed something to do with my hands. "I was scared," she continued. "Things were getting serious between us, and I panicked. Connor's been flirting with me for months, and I liked the attention, and I didn't want him to stop, so I kept things vague about us. About you. But it didn't mean anything. He doesn't mean anything." I set my cup down carefully. "When you introduced me as your roommate, you told the truth." She blinked. "What?" "Maybe not the literal truth, but the truth about how you saw me. I was someone who helped pay rent and filled space in your life. I wasn't your partner. I was your convenience. That's not true. It is true, I said, my voice level. And the problem isn't what you said at the party. The problem is that I finally heard what you'd been saying for months. Maybe longer. She shook her head. I love you. I know I haven't been great at showing it lately, but I do. And we can work on this. We can do counseling or, when was the last time we went on a date? I interrupted. She paused. I don't. We've both been busy. September. 3 months ago. I took you to that Italian place in Old Town for your birthday. Before that, it was July. And before that, I honestly can't remember. Okay, but that doesn't mean. When was the last time we were intimate? Her face flushed. I don't think that's fair. For months. Not a kiss, not hand-holding, nothing. For months of living together, and you barely touched me. I've been stressed with work. And you never posted about me on social media. Never invited me to work events until I basically forced the issue with the holiday party. Never mentioned me to new friends. Your coworkers didn't even know you had a boyfriend. She was crying now, silent tears running down her face. I didn't realize. I wasn't trying to hide you. Maybe not consciously, but you kept me in a box labeled roommate who I occasionally sleep with. And when it became inconvenient to even maintain that pretense, you just stopped trying. That's not fair, she whispered. You're right. It's not fair. That's why I left. She wiped her eyes. So 3 years means nothing to you? You're just going to throw it all away? It meant everything to me. That's the problem. It should have meant something to you too. We sat in silence for a long moment. Around us, the coffee shop buzzed with Sunday afternoon energy. People on laptops, friends catching up, couples sharing pastries. Normal life, continuing around our ending. I transferred money for the lease break, I said finally. It should cover my portion. The utilities are mostly in your name, but I've canceled my auto-pay contributions. My mail's been forwarded. There's nothing left to negotiate. So that's it. Her voice was thick with tears. You've just decided it's over and there's nothing I can say? If I hadn't said anything at the party, I said slowly, if I'd just ignored it and gone home with you that night, what would have happened? She didn't answer. You would have kept things exactly as they were. Comfortable for you, hollow for me. You wouldn't have suggested counseling or working on things or any of this. You would have just continued. And I would have stayed, making excuses for you, telling myself things were fine. I would have realized. No, I said. You wouldn't have. You only realized there was a problem when I left. When it became inconvenient for you. When you had to face consequences. She was fully crying now, not trying to hide it. So what am I supposed to do? I don't know, I said honestly. That's not my problem to solve anymore. But we were good together, she pressed, desperation creeping into her voice. Remember when we first moved in? How happy we were. Were we? Or was I just happy to be included in your life at all? I paused. I spent 2 years grateful for whatever scraps of attention you threw my way. That's not what happy looks like. You never said anything. How was I supposed to know you were unhappy? I told you. Multiple times. You just never listened. I counted off on my fingers. Last Valentine's Day, when I asked why we never went out anymore. In August, when I said I felt like we were drifting. In October, when I asked if you even wanted me at your company picnic. Every time, you told me I was overthinking it. She looked away. I thought you were okay with how things were. No, you didn't. You just hoped I was. Because if I was okay with it, you didn't have to change anything. I leaned forward slightly. Here's the thing that really gets me. You knew Connor was flirting with you. You admitted it. And instead of shutting it down, instead of making it clear you were in a relationship, you encouraged it by hiding me. I didn't encourage. You erased me. That's encouragement. My voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. And the worst part? I don't even think you liked him that much. You just liked having options. You liked keeping me around for stability while testing if something better might come along. Her face crumpled. That's not. I wasn't. The party wasn't the problem. It was just the moment I finally saw clearly what you'd been showing me all along. You were embarrassed that I called you out in front of Patricia. Not embarrassed that you'd hurt me. Not sorry for what you said. Just worried about how it made you look. I am sorry. Now you are. Now that there are consequences. Now that you're realizing what it costs to lose your convenient roommate who paid half your rent and asked for nothing in return. I stood up. But sorry isn't enough anymore. She looked up at me, mascara running, face blotchy with tears. So that's really it? 3.5 years, and you're just done? I was done the moment you introduced me as your roommate. I just didn't know it yet. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, softer now. What if what I'm looking for is you? Then you should have treated me like it mattered. I walked out of the coffee shop, and this time, she didn't follow. 6 weeks later, I was fully settled into my new life. The Wicker Park apartment had become home, filled with furniture I'd picked out myself. I'd started dating casually, nothing serious, just remembering what it felt like to have someone be excited to see me. My work performance had improved, my boss commenting on how I seemed more engaged, more present. I woke up without dread. That was the biggest change. No more lying in bed, wondering what mood she'd be in, whether I'd done something wrong, whether today would be the day she'd finally notice me. I just woke up, made coffee, and started my day. Simple, clean, mine. Liam gave me updates occasionally, though I never asked for them. She'd gotten a roommate to help with rent. An actual roommate this time, some woman from her office. Connor had started dating someone else, a development that apparently devastated her more than losing me had. She was still at the same job, still telling anyone who'd listened that I'd overreacted, that I'd ended things over nothing. She still doesn't get it, Liam said over beers one night. She thinks you left because of one comment. It wasn't about one comment, I said. I know, man. Anyone who paid attention knows. People talk about closure like it's something the other person gives you. Like you need them to understand what they did wrong, to apologize, to make it right. Like there's going to be some final conversation where everything becomes clear and you both walk away satisfied. But closure isn't about them. It's about you realizing that you don't need their validation. You don't need them to understand. You just need to understand it yourself. And then you need to walk away. She introduced me as her roommate because that's what I was to her. And the moment I heard it out loud, I realized I deserved to be more than that to someone. Not to her. She'd already shown me who she was. But to someone. And definitely to myself. I don't know if she ever figured out what went wrong. Probably not. People like that rarely do. They rewrite history, make themselves the victim, convince themselves they did nothing wrong. They go through life wondering why people keep leaving, never realizing they're the common denominator. But I figured it out. I figured out that I'd been settling for crumbs while telling myself I was getting a meal. I figured out that love without respect isn't love at all. I figured out that sometimes the person you need to rescue is yourself. That's the only closure I needed.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.